She was days away from her wedding. Her dress was ready. Her future was waiting. But instead of walking down the aisle, Annie Lou's body was discovered hidden behind a wall in her Yale research lab, a building filled with cameras, with keycard security, with controlled access. And yet somehow Annie vanished in broad daylight. How does a brilliant 24-year-old student disappear inside one of the most secure buildings at Yale University? And why did the truth point to someone she worked alongside every single day? This is the haunting story of Annie Lee, a woman who dreamed of curing cancer, whose life was stolen inside the very place she believed she was safest. Annie Lou was born on July 3, 1985, in San Jose, California. The daughter of Vietnamese immigrants, she grew up in a hard-working, close-knit household where education was seen as the path to a better future. Annie was remembered as kind, driven, and full of energy. Though she stood under 5 feet tall, she carried herself with confidence. She wore glasses, smiled often, and had a way of making people feel comfortable in her presence. From a young age, she excelled academically, graduating as valedictorian of her high school class in 2003. In her yearbook, she wrote her ambition simply: to find a cure for cancer. After completing her undergraduate studies in cell biology at the University of Rochester, Annie was accepted into Yale's prestigious pharmacology PhD program. Her research focused on cancer, and her classmates described her as brilliant, passionate, and deeply committed to making an impact. She didn't just want to succeed, one classmate said. She wanted her work to matter, to change lives. Beyond the lab, Annie's life was filled with joy. She was engaged to her college sweetheart, Jonathan Widawsky, a Columbia University graduate student. The two had planned their wedding for September 13, 2009, on Long Island. Annie had already chosen her dress. The invitations had gone out, and she was looking forward to the future. But what should have been the happiest week of her life instead became the beginning of a nightmare. On the morning of September 8, 2009, Annie walked into Yale's Medical Research Building at 10 Amistad Street. Surveillance cameras captured her entering around 10 a.m., dressed casually in a green t-shirt and skirt, carrying her laptop and research materials. Her keycard logged her entry into the basement laboratory, where she often worked with mice for her experiments. But after that, the record stopped. There were no more swipes, no more footage of her leaving. By evening, she missed appointments. Friends called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Her fiancé, Jonathan, grew frantic. Annie was always responsible, always on time. By 9 p.m., the police were notified. By midnight, Yale administrators, New Haven detectives, and eventually the FBI were involved. Annie Lou was missing. At first, there were whispers. Some wondered if she had cold feet about her wedding. Others speculated about stress from her demanding academic life. But those who knew Annie dismissed these ideas. She was deeply in love with Jonathan. She was excited about her wedding. Nothing in her behavior suggested she would simply walk away. And when investigators found her wallet, purse, phone, and ID still in her office, the possibility of a voluntary disappearance was ruled out. The building where Annie had last been seen was secure, monitored by 75 cameras, accessible only through keycards. Investigators thought it would be easy to retrace her steps, but the cameras didn't cover every hallway, and parts of the basement were blind spots. What they found was chilling. Annie walked in that morning. She never walked out. The terrifying implication was clear. Annie Lou had vanished inside Yale's research facility. For days, the search gripped the campus and the nation. FBI agents scoured the building, bringing in cadaver dogs that picked up Annie's scent in the basement near a mechanical room. Investigators drained sinks, tore apart ceiling tiles, and searched every corner of the lab, but she was nowhere to be found. Students grew fearful. If Annie could disappear here, inside the most secure building, what does that mean for any of us? One student said. The media descended, calling it the Yale mystery. By Friday, suspicion had shifted inward. Police began questioning Yale staff, students, and technicians, and one man's name kept coming up: Raymond Clark III. Clark was a 24-year-old animal research technician whose job was to care for the mice used in experiments. He lived nearby in Middletown with his fiancé. On the surface, he seemed unremarkable, but colleagues described him as controlling, obsessive, and sometimes confrontational, especially with women. He enforced lab rules with unnerving intensity. One student later recalled, "He gave me this strange vibe, like he wanted to control everything." When investigators checked the keycard records, they noticed something alarming. Clark's swipes matched the times and places Annie had been in the basement that day. He quickly became the prime suspect. On September 13th, 2009, the day Annie was supposed to marry Jonathan, police executed a search warrant on the lab building. Deep in the basement, they opened a utility chase behind a wall, a narrow space filled with pipes and cables. There, hidden inside, they made a horrifying discovery: the body of Annie Lou. She had been strangled and forced into the small cavity, concealed as though someone had tried to erase her existence. The autopsy later confirmed she had died of traumatic asphyxia due to neck compression. The net closed around Raymond Clark. Forensic testing revealed his DNA on Annie's clothing and her blood on his shoes. Security footage placed him in critical areas of the basement during the key time frame. Police also found unsettling handwritten notes in his apartment about lab procedures and women he worked with. On September 17, 2009, Clark was arrested at a motel in Cromwell, Connecticut, and charged with Annie's murder. At first, Clark pleaded not guilty, but after nearly 2 years of legal maneuvering, he changed his plea in March 2011. In a packed courtroom, he admitted responsibility for Annie's death. "I am sorry. I take full responsibility for what I have done," he told the judge. The room was silent. Annie's family sat just feet away. Clark was sentenced to 44 years in prison, ensuring he will not be eligible for release until 2053. The tragedy left scars that could never fully heal. Jonathan, Annie's fiancé, never spoke in depth publicly, but those close to him said he was devastated. The wedding that was supposed to unite two lives became a memorial. At Yale, classmates and professors honored Annie's memory. A scholarship was created in her name to support women in science. Her brother spoke at her memorial. She wanted to make the world better. She should be remembered for her brilliance, not just for how she died. Her death also sparked conversations about safety within academic institutions. How could a woman vanish inside a secure building? Were red flags about Clark's behavior ignored? Could her death have been prevented? For many, those questions linger. The death of Annie Lou is more than just a crime story. It is the story of a young woman whose life was filled with promise. She was brilliant, she was kind, she was about to be married, and in one violent act, her future was stolen. Her story reminds us that danger can exist in places we believe are safe, that warning signs, no matter how small, should never be ignored, and that those who dedicate their lives to helping others deserve to be protected. As one Yale professor said, Annie believed science could save lives. It's our responsibility to make sure her life and her dreams are never forgotten. What do you think about the case of Annie Lou? Were there missed warning signs that could have stopped this tragedy? Let us know in the comments. If you found this story impactful, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more true crime documentaries, because every story deserves to be told.